Here I come. Wee. Hi and welcome back. So I have been playing Wild Arms 3 the last week or so. Basically, after I beat the Metal Gear Solid 3, that was a fantastic game. I played the game for about 2 hours and then I kind of thought, let's play something else. And in the back of my mind, I was like, hey, I should try out Wild Arms 3. Wild Arms 3 is a game that I bought years ago. I don't even remember when. I never really played it because I'm not a huge fan of Westerns. Now, I don't hate Westerns or anything like that. It's just, I don't know. I just don't really care about that timeline. And this is, of course, a Japanese RPG mixed with a Western style. And I think, and don't hate me, but I think it's one of the only RPGs that really mixes these genres together. So I started playing the game, and I'm like, hey, the soundtrack is pretty good. It is Western mixed with a Japanese tune, especially the Basker village or Basker colony theme. I love it. It's a classic in my personal view. It's really, really good. So I also really love the atmosphere and the graphics. It is a 2002 RPG, so it's really early PS2 and it has this cell shaded graphics. I love cell shaded graphics. It's such a shame that they sort of stopped making these style of games and make realistic games, whatever, like Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7, for example. I really love cell shaded, and it looks really good. The characters are very detailed. And talking about characters, I kind of like the whole four-player cast. I remember that in the original Wild Arms that I also played, never beat the game, but I did play it. There's also only four characters, so I'm not entirely sure if the entire franchise has this theme of four playable characters basically from the start. You have a small prologue, epilogue that you play for each four characters, and then you embark on this grand adventure to try and save a dying world. Now, I love the atmosphere that they have created because you have few towns, you have a few dungeons. Well, you actually have a lot of towns, a lot of dungeons, and the towns look really, really sort of worn down. They were maybe magnificent in their own way back in the day when there was still water and stuff, because there are NPCs that still talk about sort of the old days where the world wasn't as bad as it right now. You really feel that the world is dying. Also, there's a really cool and pretty detailed world map, and there are almost sort of no green places. There's almost no forest or anything like that. You don't really see a lot of trees. You really feel that this world is dying, and I think they have done a exceptional job, especially for the console it's on, to really make the player feel like, hey, this is a dying world. This is literally a world where in maybe 10 or 15 years, it's game over. It's over. It's done. You are a drifter, sort of a cowboy, sort of, and you're embark on a quest, really sort of generic, cliche Japanese RPG quest to save the world. Now, what I really loved and also feared when I played the game is the dungeons and the puzzles, because I actually love reading sixth generation reviews. I mostly read them on IGN. I know IGN sucks, but hear me out. I just like how reviews, and I just picked IGN because they made a lot of reviews. I really love how you read a review, and in your mind, you have to think to, hey, this game is from 2002, this review is made in 2002, and they talk about the game as it is 2002. Like, hey, the graphics are pretty good, the soundtrack is pretty good, for example, but if that maybe that specific person would make a review for this game now, they would say the story sucks, or this sucks, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, but I just like reading old reviews, but whatever. So on the review, I basically read that the dungeons have a lot of puzzles, and some of them were pretty tough, but most of them were, doable for everybody. And I hate puzzles. I'm so bad at puzzles. I'm too stupid to understand a lot of puzzles. I loved the indie game Crosscode, but because of the enormous amount of puzzles, I just stopped playing the game. So I was really scared, especially sort of when I really started to like Wild Arms 3, that eventually I would get tired of all these puzzles. And you know what? Every dungeon is pretty small. The dungeons are not that big. They're not expansive, huge dungeons that you explore for an hour or so. It's like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and then it's over. The puzzles are pretty straightforward. Um, they even give you hints what you have to do. There are some puzzle elements where I was like, what do I have to do here? And then I look it up on the internet, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. That was so easy to understand. The hints were everywhere. So I am actually blasting through this game. I'm now 17 hours into the game, and I am at chapter 2. Now, if you have played the game, you're probably scratching your head like, wait a minute, isn't that pretty early in the game? How could you have spent 16 hours playing the game? Well, I'm not going to spoil anything, but there is a trick, not a cheat. It's not a cheat, it's a trick in the game that I sort of saw, like, hey, I found a sort of secret area where you can grow flowers because, as I mentioned, the world is dying, and you cannot even buy a health potion that is basically a flower because they're all dead. Well, there is a secret area in the world, and you have to do a pretty difficult side quest early on in the game because the dungeon that you have to do is pretty difficult when you are low level. But once you have done that, and once you have set everything up, it took me a few hours to do so, you basically can get a large amount of money pretty quickly. Well, it depends on how you think, what you think is pretty quickly. A few hours, and you have such an enormous amount of money, you can upgrade your arms. Now, your arms are your weapons, and you don't have customization in terms of buying gear or whatever. You have a little bit of customization in terms of guardians. And you can equip sort of items that it wards against poison or grants you a counterattack. But your arms can be customized 15 times, and it all depends on what you want. So because I sort of spent the entire Sunday trying to amass all that wealth, I basically have fully flushed out weapons early on in the game, and I'm basically destroying any boss that's on my way. And in between, I've been grinding a lot because I'm way too high level. I have way too much money, and I'm loving that you can do that. It's not a cheat; it's a trick in the game. Everybody can do it. No cheats. No, just a trick. So I am really liking this game, and I was not expecting this because I don't like westerns. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to talk about, and this is what I want to talk about. Well, I also have Wild Arms 4 and 5, so I have a lot of stuff to go through on the PS2. I'm playing so much PS2 lately, or let's say 6th generation, because I have been playing Time Splitters 2 on the Xbox a little bit in the weekend. So yeah, leave in the comments below. Have you ever played Wild Arms 3 or 4 or 5? And do you like these games? Leave it in the comments below. Like always, you'll see me next time. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Ooh, 9 minutes. Nice.